People who've had friends stab you in the back. What's the story? Made plans to go see a movie with my friends for my 16th birthday and planned it weeks in advance. Everyone bailed the day before or on the day, but I decided to go and see the movie anyway. Ran into my whole group of friends leaving the movie theater while buying popcorn. I confronted them. Yeah, a lot of hemming and hawing, with no real explanation and no apology. Still went to see my movie, Underworld, and learned a valuable lesson about people and friends. Sucked at the time, but eventually that lesson was a great birthday gift. It started the process of not showing up for a majority of things and only making brief appearances for a month or so. Then I got to play D&D with some people from jazz band and never really looked back. Best friend stopped talking to me after my dad died. Took the whole friend group with him. Apparently, I was too emotional. I was 13. Having my entire friend group walk away from me when I was in such a crappy place stuck with me forever. This was similar to my experience as well. I lost my father at 9 years old and all but one of my friends ditched me because they didn't know how to deal with a person in grief. I'm still close with the friend that stayed 21 years later. I hope everything is going well for you now. I asked 2 of my friends if they wanted to live together in college. Then one of them asked another person in our friend group if he wanted to join in as well. Then they asked another and another. And then once there were too many friends for one apartment, they dropped me out of it. No longer friends with any of them. Was kind of a wake-up call though, because I definitely gave way too much of myself to those people, not knowing I was the most expendable one. It really taught me not to put others on a pedestal and respect myself more, and has since led to me developing more healthy relationships that bring me a lot of happiness. I had one friend, Ben. I was bullied by everyone at elementary school. Because Ben was worried about being bullied too when they hung out with me at school, we only played outside of school. One day, a popular kid asked to play with me during recess. I was ecstatic, until after a while they said, "You're not as bad as that Ben person said you are." And that's how I learned why I was bullied. She slept with my boyfriend because she thought she was in love with me. Wackest crap I ever did hear. Well, they do say that if you do the deed with someone, you're doing it with everyone they've ever done it with. So in a way, she might have fulfilled a goal. Sucks though. I had my 17th birthday and invited my mates to go get a drink at a bar. Everyone accepted, but no one came. After a few hours of drinking alone and phone calls not getting picked up, I saw on Instagram that they were at an electro party having a good time. Apparently they were pre-gaming without me and spontaneously decided to go to this event and forgot about me. Everyone said sorry, but it still haunts me. Don't celebrate my birthday ever since then. I once had a really sad 25th birthday. I never usually celebrate them. Most of the time I just grab 1 or 3 friends and go to a restaurant with them. But this time I wanted to celebrate a bit bigger. I invited 3 different friend groups to a barbecue in the park. I honestly have no clue how this happened, but in the end I was the butt of every joke. Everyone just made fun of me the whole time till it got really annoying and even made a "you can't sit with us, we found new friends" jokes. I had a really hard time talking to anybody because no one really paid attention to me. So most of the time I was sitting alone on my blanket and just got made fun of when I wanted to chime in on a conversation. It was the worst birthday ever, and no one understood why I was so teed off in the end. I even told them the whole evening that they were going a bit overboard with their jokes. I mean, sure, it's nice having a different friend group connect with each other, but on my expense? Screw you. That's why for my 30th birthday, I just grabbed 5 really awesome and good friends and went to the zoo. Several of my housemates decided to move to the West Coast after college. There was one who was planning on going with them that they didn't want to keep living with. They waited to tell her until after they'd driven out over spring break to look at apartments. In her car. Pretty gross, and it really messed with her. I was taking a culinary class with my buddy and he walked behind me with a knife and didn't say anything. I stepped back and got mildly stabbed in the lower back. After 10 years of friendship, you think you know a guy. Wait, am I answering this right? I had a whole group of friends in high school who one day, out of nowhere, turned against me and brought the entire year group with them. No one spoke with me, were extremely cold for a good 6 months. I even got calls from one girl every day from a blocked number telling me to self-delete. It wasn't until a group project started and the group said the exact same thing. Wow, you're really not like how your old friends said you were. They never told me what was said, so to this day I have no idea what the heck happened here. This happened to a friend of mine. We were friends in middle school but then went to different high schools. We're nerds, so we kind of expect abuse, but what he got there was vicious. I started dating a girl from his school, and upon finding out we were friends, she said, "Why are you friends with him? He does inappropriate things with kids." Turns out he certainly didn't, he was just gay. Someone spread this rumor as a hyperbole because he came on to her brother who's a year younger. People just abandoned all reason and chose to believe the delicious gossip. Been very good friends for over 2 years. Their roommate moved out and they asked me if I wanted to move into their spare room. I was very happy to live with my good friends and I did everything I could to be the best roommate possible. After 3 weeks, they found another source of income and kicked me out. First, they offered to help me find another accommodation, but the next day they changed their mind and just told me to leave by the end of the month. It was 7 days away. They didn't speak to me ever since. When we met somewhere in town, they acted like they'd never seen me before. I have no freaking idea what I did wrong. My friends told me to grieve better after my boyfriend died. Some people are just terrible with dealing with the grieving. They're great for a little while, but at some point it just becomes an irritation whenever it's brought up. Grief gives no Fs. It'll hit you, fade, hit, fade, and then mostly settle down. Then 7 Christmases later, it shows up in a panic attack. It's different for everyone and often very different for every death. A quiet girl I made friends with would only sit with me in class just so she could go snitch about me to my ex-friends. She'd literally sit next to me for 1 or 2 classes, randomly, and then go and sit with them. I called her out on it after she came to sit next to me and told her, "Why do you even bother sitting with me when we just know you're just trying to get crap to talk about me with them? When I come back from the bathroom, you'd better go sit somewhere else." I was usually very quiet, and that was the first time I'd stood up for myself. I had one friend who honestly wasn't my favorite person because she was really manipulative. But I never said anything bad about her. I found out later she had been crap-talking me to all of our mutual friends and telling them that I did horrible things that I'd never done. Ended up essentially being pushed out of that entire friend group, and it ruined a lot of my high school experience. Village gossips. Personally, I'm just happy I'm not part of that miserable group anymore. As one wise man said, empty cans rattle the most. I had a best friend that I knew for 16 years. She got pregnant and her parents tried to kick her out. Her parents wanted her to get a termination, but she refused. One of our high school friends told me someone should push her down a flight of stairs. I told her that's a very bad idea and defended my best friend. The next day, the principal came by my class to ask me if I could attend a meeting about something important. If I didn't attend, I was going to be expelled. When I arrived at the meeting, our shared friend claimed I was going to shove my best friend down a flight of stairs. My best friend had believed her. We stopped talking after that. Oosh. Well, she might have eventually found out how reliable that other friend was if that's the one she chose to keep around. Stressful situation for her. I guess the lapse in judgment isn't down to cruelty. We, my husband and I, had a friend that we helped get back on his feet. Paid off some tickets he had, got his license reinstated, hooked him up with a solid connection for a reasonable, well-running car to replace his Beta, and gave him a place to live and a job, automotive repair. He decided it was a better choice to tell all our customers we were overcharging them. Spoiler, we weren't, and he'd do the jobs cheaper if they'd bring it to him at his house. This was a short time after he moved out of our house after never repaying anything he owed us. Not that we'd asked. It really broke my heart. Some will take as much as they possibly can. Now he stops by occasionally like nothing ever happened. It's been years now, but some crap doesn't heal right. My wife said she needed some time to herself, so she went to stay at her mum's for a while. One day, I went to pick up my kids and walked in on her and my best friend doing the deed. Turns out it had been going on for a while and she knew him before she knew me, which I had no clue about. To clarify a few things. 1. When I said the affair had been going on for a while, I mean for several months before I found out. This was after my second son was born. I have no doubt as to whether my kids are actually my own or not. 2. Yes, they are now my ex-wife and ex-best friend. 3. This happened nearly 16 years ago now. It was a very dark period of my life, but I'm great now. I got 2 great kids out of the relationship. I wouldn't have met my wife if this hadn't happened. Also, I believe I'm a stronger person having gone through the whole ordeal. 4. Just know that if you're going through something horrible in your life and your heart and mind are broken, there is hope for things to get better. It just takes time. This would prompt me to conduct a DNA test on the kids. I hope the results don't break your heart. I was worried about that years ago, but both are now teenagers and clearly resemble myself and their mum. Had a good bud of mine, who's the godfather of my son, living with me and my wife. I travel a lot for work and was out of the country for about 6 months in the Middle East. Came back and found out she was preggers with twins and that they weren't mine. Best friend for 8 years, started sleeping with my girlfriend, later wife, a week after I introduced them. Took 6 years after my son was born to find out that they'd meet up a few times a month. Was a chance he wasn't mine. Luckily, he is. The problem is that the closeness you have to the person blinds you to the idea that they could do anything so terrible. My best friend is one of the smartest guys I know, always on top of it when someone is being the least bit cool or he's getting screwed. Then his wife swore that she must have gotten a transmissible disease from a toilet seat. He believed her and even got mad at his good friends for saying she could be lying until he caught her cheating 6 months later. Love makes fools of us all, I guess. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below, and subscribe. Years ago, when I did a health sciences undergraduate degree, most of the cohort was determined to get into medical school. Our medical school program mainly accepted students from only our competitive undergraduate course due to subject prerequisites. We all knew each other and were friendly, hanging out together and forming study groups. Many of my friends were great. We shared tips, resources, practiced exams and interviews together, but there were a handful who really wanted to get into medical school, and since the program ranks applicants mainly based on undergraduate results, the better your friends perform, the lower your ranking is for selection. So near application time, some of us would head off to the university library to borrow our textbooks, to find chapters or page numbers that the lecturer mentioned would be on the exam. And they would be ripped out. You'd go and find another library copy of the textbook and that page would be ripped out too. All of them totally removed in a hurry. I didn't believe that someone from our cohort did it until interview practice began. Students began obtaining copies of the questions from previous years and lying when others asked if they had it. I saw someone give a terrible, awful interview answer, and the other student would give them glowing feedback and inform them they should say that, word for word, during the interview. It was a crap show, and a lot of relationships fell apart or were never the same again. In the UK, I've heard of similar practices for pupilages. Not sure if that's the right word, but trainee barristers. One girl got offered 2 places and was discussing with us which one to take, and her best friend left the room. Turned out she'd called one of them pretending to be her friend, then calling to decline a place and recommend herself. Fortunately, they found out, but sadly this was apparently common enough for them to be familiar with this kind of scam. I booked a table for 6 people to watch a sports event at a bar. I told them so. All 5 friends said, "Okay, we'll be there." No one shows up or even has the decency to call or text that they weren't coming. This just happened to my 11-year-old sister, BBBS, and I was heartbroken for her. She had a slumber party planned with about 4 friends and she'd been talking about it for over a month. Halloween is her favorite, and she had all these cute, not-too-scary slumber party plans and crafts we'd made a couple of weeks ahead of time that had truth or dares in them. None of them came. They all forgot to tell their parents. I suggested maybe next year she makes paper invitations that her friends can give their parents so they for sure know about it. Turns out that's exactly what she did, and they still messed it up somehow. Ugh. My friend told me they weren't doing anything for their birthday. On the day of their birthday, photos appeared on Facebook of them out with the rest of our friends. They're not my friends anymore. Frick, man. One of my most painful memories from elementary school was when I saw one of my friends showing other kids pictures from her birthday party that happened the weekend prior. Almost all of my good friends were there having a blast with her, except me, obviously. She seemed remorseful when she realized that she forgot to invite me, but we were never as close after that, and we were pretty good friends with each other, too. A woman I thought was my friend. We worked together for years and our kids were friends. I helped her and her husband out when he was having mental health problems. She was in my sister's wedding party, appeared in court as a witness for my ex-wife in her bid to gain full custody. Thankfully, she failed and I now have custody of my kids. I haven't spoken to my friend since. A guy who seemed like a good mate when it was just us, and then as soon as there was someone else or a group, he took the mickey out of me and tried to make me the butt of all his jokes. Even worse if there were girls around. After a while, I called him out on it and he was just like, "Dude, it's just a joke." But I was done with him after that. I saw him randomly earlier this year after years of no contact, and it was amicable, and we caught up a bit on how we were getting on with our own lives, and while he's grown up and become a bit more grounded, there's been no intention of rebuilding a bridge. I think if I ever met someone that has that side to their personality, I'd drop them like a hot potato. I think we all have at least one nasty experience with people like this growing up. Teens are gnarly. I hope that these experiences with grown adults are fewer and further between. My D-bag of a brother did this to his best friend of all time. After about 6 years of this, his friend couldn't stand it anymore and cut my brother off. My brother is so arrogant he still can't see the problem. Why didn't he just keep being my victim? That's the way things were. It was his place. I don't get it. In 2014, I woke up January 1st in horrible pain. I ended up needing an emergency surgery to remove my gallbladder. I was a single mum to 2 kids under 5 and had just moved back to my hometown after living out of state. We'd had to leave a really crappy living situation and had only been back about a month, and I hadn't found a job at that point. I'd had a really close family friend who had been living with me before I'd moved back, and he ended up homeless, so I bought him an $80 bus ticket and got him back to our hometown and let him stay with me for a few days. He quickly found another place to stay, but we'd invited him to my youngest son's 2nd birthday, which is the 6th of January. I was like 4 days out from surgery at this point and could barely make it down the stairs at this point, so he offered to go and pick up pizza and cake for my son and me. We didn't have a huge party or anything. I was on food stamps and had cash assistance, since my son's dad was not involved at all and he didn't pay child support. Even so, I offered for him to get himself a small pizza to take back to the girl he was staying with, since her and her kids couldn't make it over. So the party goes great and everyone has a good time, especially both my kids. A few days later, my grandma was going to do grocery shopping for me, so I go to get my card and realize it's not there. I never got it back from that guy, and I forgot he had it since I was on pain meds from surgery. I tried calling him like 5 times and he didn't answer, so I got to my account online to check my balance and he took everything. I had like $600 in cash, paid my rent and brought my kids the things they needed, and then I had about $750 in food stamps. All of it was gone. He let the girl he was staying with convince him to steal the money from me. I'd only used the money to buy the bus ticket and the pizza and cake for my son since I'd been in hospital for the first 4 days of the year, and only home for 2 after that. It's still to this day the most intentionally messed up thing anyone's ever done to me, mostly because he was such a huge FU to my kids. Like, who steals from a single mum recovering from a life-saving surgery on her kid's birthday? Especially after I helped him, like holy crap. Growing up in the same church and met my friend and her family when I was 14. We grew up together, hung out, and our families would be together all the time. Fast forward many years and I'm dating a guy that I fell in love with for almost 3 years at the time. He went to North Dakota to the oil fields for work. I went to visit him and could tell something was off a bit. Took the train from my town to Williston, 22 hours to get there. Visited him for 5 days and on the last day he gets up and goes to the shower. I grab his phone. We had an open policy with each other that either could be on each other's phones. I found the emails between my friend and him. My family still hangs out with her family and her. I refuse to be around or speak to her. My best friend since 4th grade, called her my soul sister. I genuinely was so grateful to have what I thought our friendship was. She fell on hard times and got weirdly religious and stopped working while going to a private university. I was always there for her, shoulder to cry on, visited her all the time because she didn't have any friends and I knew she was lonely. I helped her with groceries and rent, helped her family out. One day she came over, and after buying her groceries, she told me that a higher power had been telling her to cut me off for 2 years and she had to listen. Now she wants to be friends again. It's a hard nope from me, dog. I had some friends who were always talking crap about me. Found out from another good friend. And one day, I came to school in my brand new jeans that cost around €150, and they put glue on my chair while I was in the bathroom. I sat on it. I asked which of them did it, and none of them said a word. We went to the principal's office, and these pieces of crap had the gall to say that I put it there to get them in trouble. Their parents were called, and I earned around €200 for a new pair of jeans. In 7th grade, she wrote a 10-page letter on all the reasons I should self-delete, and had all but one of my friends sign an agreement after I confided in her that I felt like something was wrong with me. Early undiagnosed depression, go figure. The day she gave it to me was arguably the worst day of my life at that point because my parents had told my sister and I that they were considering divorce and my grandmother had died. My parents ended up solving their issues and are happier than ever. I've been in therapy for a while and it's had wonderful results along with a pretty good mood stabilizer. I'm happier and healthier than I've ever been, and honestly the best thing for me was to completely cut her out of my life. Everyone that signed an agreement has long since cut contact with her and apologized to me. Just happened today, actually. I threw a housewarming party for myself and invited about 20 people over. It's been 5.5 hours and no one has shown up or bothered to call. I specified no gifts and supplied about $250 worth of food and drinks that'll go to waste now. My best friend begged my girlfriend to go south of the border on him. That was pretty brutal. F you, Ben. A friend stole my Mortal Kombat 2 strategy guide in 3rd grade. I never forgave him. Eat crap, Cameron, doo-doo head. Friend was really close with me and my girlfriend. Friend was my girlfriend's confidant while we were dating. I trusted that friend because he was a good guy up to that point. Friend was constantly pinning her against me and making bigger deals out of small stuff, saying I was mistreating her by not being with her constantly because I was working a full-time job while in school. The girlfriend cheated on me with her friend. He tried to turn everyone against me. The only person who still associates with that friend is the girlfriend, and they're getting married in the next few months. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.